Drew here is crestfallen right now.
Dead inside.
Wearing his Jag heart on his sleeve.
Yes.
Can't take it. He's a broken man.
Yeah.
That was
horrible.
That was not fun yesterday.
It's like Dallas. 2 weeks in a row. I feel like I haven't even watched the Jags play football.
It was
the
bad.
game's over in 2 seconds.
It was bad. Yesterday was bad. Yesterday was a bad outing for the good guys as the Jaguars get just smoked in Dallas 40-7. It didn't feel that close.
We were doing the fifth quarter last night, and we were, struggling to find your offensive and defensive and special teams players of the game.
Yeah, those are tough features after a game like that.
I told him for the special teams player of the game, you might as well make it a joke and make it Wilson for ruining the entire game.
Maybe.
It's like... we made it Logan Cook because, he was quite active.
He was very active.
Don't really know what else you're supposed to do.
He got a lot done.
Look,
there's not much good to say about what happened in Dallas yesterday. It was an absolute ramrodding by the Cowboys. From the jump. Dallas came out, looked real sharp offensively. The Jaguars came out, looked anything but in a 3-and-out, and the writing was on the wall from there. You could highlight certain moments of the game where you thought, if things break right, you're in it. But you really never felt in it, man. You never felt in it. It was a rough game. It was hard to watch, and there's a lot of questions to be answered. Doug Marone in his post game said it's not one thing. You can't pinpoint one thing. There's no simple solution. There's a lot of blame to go around, and everyone wears a certain amount of blame in what happened Sunday in Dallas. The defense played poorly. The offense was awful. The coaching game plan was terrible. Special teams was poor. It was bad all around for the Jaguars in that big loss yesterday. And now they come home and what, at least perception-wise, feels like an absolute must-win game against the Houston Texans.
Yeah, I said last week after the Kansas City game, nobody thinks that way because you're playing Kansas City. It's been obvious for the Jags have a lot of problems. Everybody just likes to either pinpoint it on two people. They like to go, if it's defensively, it's Jalen Ramsey's fault because he does all the talking. Offensively, it's always Blake Bortles' fault. It does not matter. Yesterday would not have mattered. It wouldn't have, Blake Bortles, yeah, he didn't play great, no kidding. But the offensive line got killed. You're down 24-0 at half. You're not coming back from that. He makes the throw into triple coverage is horrible, but the game's already over.
Right.
The game's already over. It doesn't matter.
Right, and Leonard Fournette wouldn't have made a damn bit of difference either.
No.
T.J. Yeldon was running the ball fine. They got in a huge hole early and were toast. The shocking thing with the offensive line getting beat up yesterday, too, was you would think, if the offensive line is going to get abused by the Dallas Cowboys, it's going to be Jeremy Parnell on the right side, who had a horrible game against Kansas City, and it was going to be Josh Walker on the left side as your third-string left tackle being forced into action. Those guys playing fine! It's the $13 million man at left guard and the $13 million man at center that got abused yesterday as the Jaguars couldn't keep the Cowboys from just rushing right up the middle. Left and right, it was bad. It was bad.
Must be something about giving those free agent linemen number 68. That's just not a good omen for the Jags. If y'all remember the Zane Beatles
That was the
signing.
Beatles number, yeah.
Didn't go well. I'll tell you right now.
The curse of Vince Manowar.
Yeah. So far, obviously.
Is he 67?
I don't know. So far, Norwell is. You could probably say he's a bust for the amount of money.
Based on the money. Look, I'm not an offensive line expert.
Yeah, and nobody is. It's so hard to sit here and
analyze
it. But I know he's giving up sacks, and I know I see him looking back at the quarterback half the time like, ooh.
Right. And there's moments, between the penalties and...
Here's the thing about offensive linemen. If you notice them, probably as a casual fan, it's not good.
It's bad. You only notice offensive linemen... the only time you notice offensive linemen for good play is occasionally you notice a center or guard because they pull and they're coming off to spring a guy.
They pull, they open some huge hole.
Or you see a left tackle just obliterate a guy.
Yeah, they pancake somebody, they get to the second level and then they kick over.
But usually the offensive line should be complete non-entities, and that means they're playing well.
Yeah.
That was not the case yesterday in Dallas. It was it was ugly all around, man. It was ugly all around, and there's no positive to take from it. There's no positive spin to put on it. This team was 3-1 2 weeks ago and feeling great about themselves going into a big game with Kansas City. Now they're 3-3. Things do not look good. Things feel bleak right now in Jacksonville. Look, and I know some of that's just the freshness of these back-to-back losses, and there's a little bit of the sky is falling feeling. in reality, and I'm not trying to silver linings this thing, but the team's 3-3. They're still sharing first place in a putrid AFC South. So the season isn't over by any stretch.
The thing is you're kind of right back where you were last year, but the expectations are so different. It feels horrible right now.
And the team feels different than it did.
Remember they got blown out by the Titans last year in like week 2.
Week 2, they came up week 1. They went to Houston. They had 10 sacks. They beat the hell out of the Texans. They came home to play the Titans and got blitzed. And then I don't know if it was week 3, week 4. They had the big win in London over Baltimore, and you sort of felt like, okay, maybe this is a different kind of team.
The difference is that the injuries weren't there, and it is like the Jags. I don't think I see this. I think Jacksonville can still win their division, but I don't think it's based off of the season turning around and getting exponentially better. I think it's based off of how bad the AFC South is.
Sure.
The Titans, they're no good. The Texans may be the team that we said a couple weeks ago who was 0-3 with a terrible offensive line that I said, honestly, maybe they'll you thought they'd figure it out, but after an 0-3 start, you're like, you know what, maybe it's just not happening for them this year. They've now routed off 3 straight wins. Granted, they pulled one out of their you-know-what yesterday against the Bills because my guy Peterman is just, I don't know what his deal is. But they're the hottest team in the division right now. They beat Jacksonville. All of a sudden they're in first place.
This is a critical game Sunday because of who you're playing. Even more so.
It's a 3-way tie at 3-3.
Right, it's 3-way tie. Indy's trash. Indy's not a factor, but it's a 3-way tie between 3 teams who are all very flawed and have issues across the board. And
you can't look at the difference now is a couple weeks ago you look at that Texans game and you go, okay, Jags will win that. Now I look at that game. How do you pick the Jags to win after what you've seen the last 2 weeks?
Good morning, Wendy. It's hard to pick them to beat Houston because look, you were able to write off losing to Kansas City because that's a terrific team.
Sure.
That's obviously a real threat in the AFC. It's a real title contending type team. So you go, okay, you got blitzed by one of the best teams. And really when you sort of look at it, you're like, oh, the defense didn't play too bad considering who they were going up against. Yesterday is another story. Yesterday, that was a Dallas team coming in we all talked about was not a very good team. A bad wide receiver core, a quarterback who's just mediocre, a defense that is okay to good, and an offensive line that's pretty good. They weren't the best team, but, Jeff pointed this out. I got to give Jeff credit. He pointed this out all week, and he said that the Cowboys are constructed very similarly to the Tennessee Titans, which is a team that always gives us fits. And, lo and behold, I don't even know if you could categorize it as fits yesterday. It was fits early. They just beat the hell out of them yesterday. It was bad.
Yeah, and here's why you shouldn't feel good about the Texans game. Because really teams with these elite pass rushers, these elite edge rushers, they're going to crush Jacksonville because of the tackle situation. Well, guess what? Next week, you get J.J. Watt and you get Clowney. So that'll be fun.
Is that a good unit?
Yeah.
Is that a good combo?
Might be okay.
Of guys to rush the passer? Yeah, it's not great.
Okay.
Ultimately, it's, the defense. Look, the defense has to play substantially better than they did this past week. They have to. They were awful yesterday on every level. A couple guys stood out. Yannick balled out. Calais got back there. Tayshaun Gibson's been playing great the last few weeks, but as a unit, it's not good. And look, we talked about this going into the season. We were concerned about the lack of depth in the offensive line and the lack of depth at linebacker. Mm-hmm. And clearly the team, Baselli talked about this too, has little confidence in Leon Jacobs because they use Ronnie Harrison down there in the box a lot.
Yeah.
And obviously the lack of depth on the offensive line is showing through now with these injuries. Attrition has made this a glaring issue for this team. So it's something they need to address. But we said they needed to address it last year going into the draft and free agency. It wasn't. So hopefully they're learning their lesson down there. Because, and look, they used a luxury pick in the first round by taking Taven Bryan, who so far has looked not good.
Yeah, I think that was one thing for me that's really upset me watching this team. Imagine having Will Hernandez right now on that line. That would really help.
Or Sony Michel.
Yeah. Literally. Just any position of need.
Right.
Taven Bryan, a defensive tackle who really had one flash in the pan, good year at Florida. One good year in college. who's just super strong and works hard. You take him 29 because he's the highest guy on your board, and you think your roster is that good to where you can do things like that. When if you look around at the Jaguars roster, they're thin at plenty of crucial positions.
Yeah,
running back, lineman, linebacker. I mean, what are you thinking taking a defensive... And look, at the time, you're like, you know what? They've had good drafts. Let me have faith in them. Maybe they know what they're doing with this pick, and maybe they love this kid. There was a play yesterday where he's rushing to get Prescott going to the left. Prescott is already back behind him and running for about a 20-yard gain, and Taven Bryan is looking over there
walking around in a circle.
Where's the court? I mean, are you kidding me, dude?
It was crazy. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. So hopefully, hopefully we get right. They have to, because this is, whether it's just outside perception, but the feeling amongst the fan base is that it's a season sort of on the brink right now.
I don't know how you fix it. How do you fix it? I don't think they can.
Look, we had Baselli on this morning, and he was very contrite about it, and he said that, if we're talking this year, he said then you got to make a trade because the solutions are not on the roster. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
Outside of Leonard Fournette coming back healthy to help the running game, the solutions at linebacker and in the offensive line aren't here. And you saw how desperate things get. The answers aren't in free agency. They signed Eric Flowers, who is terrible.
Yeah.
So the answers aren't out there on the street. Jamal Charles did jack squat for this team yesterday. The answers aren't out there on the street. If you really think you're still in a contending window and you feel like you've got holes, then the answer has to come before midseason.
I mean, right now
with the trade deadline,
you don't see this team going. I mean, best case scenario, they're going 9-7, probably 8-8. I think they're an 8. That's what they look like. They look like a 500 football.
Everybody in this division outside of Indianapolis looks like an 8-8 team right now. So it's going to be there might be some wiggle, some swing room. So 9-7 might win this division, and 10-6 certainly would because this division is mediocre at best.
And the other thing is the way that you've
played competitively mediocre.
The way that you've played against the Titans, you don't really want it to come down to one game or so.
No, because they've shown.
Yeah. So
when it's you against them for one game, the track record isn't good.
It's not
good for the Big Cats.
It's not good.
Look, I'm tired of being depressed about this, so we're going to bid you a fond farewell, Good Kids. We love you. We want to come back. We want a victory Monday next week, but we'll be back tomorrow, hopefully with gladder tidings. But hey, who knows? It's an up, down, topsy-turvy year. Bye.